Hi, it's Dave T here and I'm at Cholsey Grange CL site in the Chilterns on a lovely day in late October 2021. And the site owner, Ted Howard-Jones, has very kindly volunteered to have an interview with me discussing what's involved in actually running and setting up a CL site. Ted is very involved in the CL owners community, so obviously he has a lot of insight in terms of what's involved. He knows what other CL owners are talking about from that perspective, which should be interesting for us as CL users who actually have to use these sites to see it somewhat more from the owner's perspective. I've done a video as usual of the site and I'll put a link up here for that. And as always, if you do find this content interesting, then please do hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more content like it.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm Ted Howard-Jones and I'm talking to you today from my farm, Cholsey Grange CL, high on the Chiltern Hills. We've been open 9 years. We started as a very simple grass-only CL with no electricity, and then we've gradually improved it over the years so that we're now a fully serviced, hard-standing pitches and so forth. This was our first foray into diversification in the tourism side, and since then we've gone on and opened a riding business as well. But the CL was definitely the starting point 9 years ago. I think it's the difference, I think, between going to a holiday inn and going to a B&B, maybe a quirky B&B. You know, every CL site is different. Every CL site offers something different. You get that personal service. The owner will know that environment like the back of their hand. And I think that CLs have that individuality that the club sites, just by their very nature, can't offer. You know, you've got space, generally speaking, you've got a lot more space and you've got less going on around you and there are less people, and it should be quieter and more relaxed and more informal than the necessary rigidity of running a club site that might have 100 or 150 caravans on it. I think one of the biggest concerns of CL owners is actually electricity usage. We've recently seen a huge spike in the cost of electricity, and that's and in the past, 5 years or so, caravans and motorhomes now routinely use electric heating rather than gas. So we've seen a gradual rise in the usage of electricity, and then people bring along other sorts of gadgets as well that are electrically powered. So the electricity usage on a site has increased, and then we've suddenly had a price hike. So that's a big area of concern, and I think what we'll see is more and more sites metering their electricity in some shape, form or another over the next year or two, just to keep their costs in control and be fairer to everybody involved. I mean, CL pricing is a very interesting topic. I don't understand why there is a perception that CL should be any cheaper than a commercial or a club site. In fact, because we are only allowed 5 vans and therefore we cannot generate as much income as a commercial site, then in theory we should be charging more for the exclusivity. Depending on obviously the facilities on offer. I think that historically a lot of CLs have been underpriced, and that's been to a great advantage of members. Some CL owners don't perhaps realise the costs involved in their time and so forth. They perhaps haven't increased their prices in line with inflation. They perhaps have lots of long-standing repeat customers and they don't like the idea of changing the price on them. But new entrants into the market have probably looked at it on a business-like basis, looked at the time they're going to spend and have priced accordingly. And I don't think any CL that I know is overpriced. CLs providing electric, if they're charging less than £20 a night, are probably making a loss. And likewise, a CL that's off-grid and doesn't provide electric, charging less than £10 is probably making a loss. I think that we'll see prices generally rising, particularly those that provide unlimited electricity. So I don't think that expectation of new CLs taking advantage of the staycation market is correct. I think there is a little bit less price sensitivity in the marketplace. There's a lot more demand, but I think CLs are now coming to realise that they need to be viable businesses so that they're there for the long term. There's nothing worse than a CL going, oh, this isn't worth the candle, and closing. That doesn't do either the owner any good or the member any good. So let's keep pricing, sensible, but certainly covering costs and hopefully making a bit of income for the owner, who's allowing members onto their lands, into their back garden, and spending their time with them, welcoming them to their environment. The CL site network will be influenced by the way the Caravan Club promote it, I think. I hope it grows. It's diminished a little bit in the last 10 years. I think we had 2,500 or 3,000 sites, 10 or 20 years ago. It's down to about 2,000 now. There've been a lot more applications recently, so hopefully it's on the growth as well, so that particularly in Scotland, where there's not very many CLs. I think that new entrants are improving the quality in terms of what's on offer to members, and routinely in providing the facilities that people want, if they're able to. I think the quality will improve, and I think that hopefully we won't lose any of the individuality and the quirkiness of CLs, because I think that's what everybody likes, is that every CL they go to is a bit different. Interesting, yeah, obviously there are a number of certificating bodies, and actually a few more coming onto the scene as well in the last year or two. We've seen greener camping expand from just Wales through to England as well. But I think each of the networks has their own take, if you like, and although members may be members of more than one certificating body, I think that each has their own way that they look at the marketplace, and your expectations are set accordingly. So I don't see there being a future for amalgamating those 2, 3 or 4 networks. I think they each have their own way of working. I think it's interesting. The challenges of CLs, I think, are going to be driven really by the types of vehicles that members have. Obviously, there's an increasing number of motorhomes, and motorhomes perhaps need slightly different facilities or expect different things from a CL than a caravan does, and that influences where they like to go. Both types of vehicles are, although there are obviously lots of van conversions and smaller ones now coming onto the marketplace, I think from a CL owner's perspective, they're more concerned about the vehicles getting larger, wider, longer, and more power hungry in terms of electricity usage. And then we've got the discussion about things that tow them, or how they're brought to site. Are we going to have electric motorhomes, and we're already seeing electric or hybrid cars, and what do they need in terms of charging and so forth? Not all CLs will be able to accommodate them. Some will benefit from it because they'll be able to provide all the facilities that these guys are looking for. Others in more perhaps rural or remote locations may not be able to. And then there are the expectations of members in terms of what they have when they get on site, things like Wi-Fi, and also making it easier for the members to book and find the site that they're looking for. There's a huge expectation now that you can book a CL at 2 o'clock in the morning and pay for it there and then, rather than having to telephone or write or whatever, which is what happened in the old days. So I think there's lots of different challenges that CL owners are going to have to think about moving forwards into the next 5 years. Whether CLs will be able to deliver this really depends, as I've said all along, on their location. Can the infrastructure, particularly the electricity network, accommodate what they're trying to achieve? We know that there are a lot of CLs in very rural, remote locations, and also who may not wish to embrace technology or booking systems and so forth. And they may not want to go down that road. And that's fine. You know, every CL, as we've said, is different, and the way they approach their marketplace is different. But many CLs, newer ones particularly, are embracing the change and looking to provide a great customer experience. And I hope that a lot of them find that it's a worthwhile journey to go on, and brings them some additional income, and enables them to share their home or their farm with lots of people from across the membership.
Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure.